Today is Wednesday, May 6th, 2020. Welcome to the Survivor Fans Podcast. I'm Joanne.
And I'm Stacy.
And this is our recap of Winners at War, Week 13.
This episode's titled The Penultimate Step of the War, spoken by Jeremy. Now, do you think he knew to say that? Because they like talking about the penultimate episode. And we do see him in this episode studying a calendar, so they're very data aware. So I think he might have been fishing for a title a little bit there.
Yeah, or they might throw a little something in there.
Some clues.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe production gives them a few hints for where to go on that. Or maybe he just got there all on his own. In any case, that comes from him, and it's very early in our 2-hour episode here.
Maybe, maybe not. We don't know when he said it. I mean, we know when he said it in this episode, but, you know.
It's night 29. We're coming back after Tribal Council. Kim's just been voted out, and Michele is in a quandary. She's pretty upset. She says Tribal Council was a disaster.
Again, as always.
On the plus side, Jeremy's still here, so she's got that going for her. But on the cons, everyone knows about her advantage now, and she's feeling like, in her words, she brought a butter knife to a gunfight.
Yep. I liked that, actually.
Yeah, that was good. They're all really good at giving lines.
Well, and Michele tells Jeremy that every single person said they were voting for him, including Tony, before they left for Tribal Council. And she doesn't understand why they would not tell her to vote for Jeremy, since she did anyway. Why wouldn't they tell her she didn't have to vote for him?
Right. Instead of Kim. And that really brings us to the point of her discussion, which is when she asks that question, who do we trust? And the answer is clear to both of them that it's no one, and that's when we get the title from Jeremy there.
Okay, on to day 30. This was a 4-day episode.
Mm-hmm.
Not quite what we thought.
Nope.
Denise is being sarcastic about sleeping well. Of course I slept really well.
Yeah, in answer to Jeremy's question. No, she's not
Jeremy's
sleeping.
Like, really? She's like, no.
And she tells us that she's not a tattoo girl, doesn't really see that in her future, but if she did, she would get 2. And on the left hand, it would say endure, and on the right hand, it would say let go. That's good advice for life.
Yeah.
A lot of things that you face in life require endurance, and like some of the things we're going through right now. And then sometimes things are out of your control, and you have to let go. Otherwise, you'll just drive yourself nuts, circling the bowl on something that you can't really affect.
And that both are okay. I think that's the more important message, is that it's okay either way.
Good stuff. I like that calendar that Jeremy and Tony were looking at. Whoever did that did a good job. You can see the initials of the people and what day they were voted out, and like there's a heart on the day with the loved one's visit, and I think there's like a slice of pizza on one day, and so different things like that.
Though their exchange was very silly.
Jeremy and Tony arguing about
what 2 weeks is.
What constitutes 2 weeks. Yeah, that was good.
One being very literal and the other one not. And so.
Well, they're both being literal just in terms of from their own point of view, from their own branches in the tree, I guess.
Oh, funny.
Yeah. They operate with different lenses.
I could see them doing that all the time.
Oh, yeah.
Constantly.
Yeah, it seemed to even tickle Tony. He's like, you're working harder, I'm working smarter.
Yeah.
And the takeaway from that exchange in Tony's confessional is that he's really got to keep Jeremy. It's important to have him as cover. And then we see Sarah and Tony talking about this exact point.
Because Jeremy's a number for him.
Yeah. So Sarah and Tony are talking about how cops are us. This alliance is 6 years in the making. And this is their tiebreaker. They've each won one. And now they gotta face off and see who's gonna
I'm
come out
surprised
ahead.
Tony had the guts to even say, "Oh, it's time to blindside you." Then
Yeah, that was funny. And Sarah's response: "Just try it."
well, they must be fairly confident by now that that's not.
What a demonstration of their skill that they put on right here too. They're talking strategy. Hey, we can't really afford to take Jeremy out because if we do, Sarah says we're sitting ducks, and that's right along the same lines as what Tony was saying. And they're wondering about Nick. Nick was with us, but not till the end. And Ben is so stubborn about wanting to get out Jeremy. How are we going to handle this problem with Ben so that we can keep Jeremy and Ben?
I'd been wondering that myself.
That's really cool how she does this. And it does look like Ben's kryptonite is talking to a smart woman. Because they seem to convince him and spin his head.
And yet he's very skeptical. If Jeremy even opens his mouth, Ben starts
He's
backing
lying.
up and
Yeah.
looking at him out the corner of his eye like,
Wondering about
I
Tony,
don't trust
wondering about
you.
Adam,
I
don't trust Boston Rob, all the.
But when
yeah.
we heard him listen to the women talk, yep, look at you.
There we go. Gets him turned
course,
around.
he says yeah, a lot of times he doesn't do, but-
great demonstration by Sarah here, talking about their numbers and how she thinks Ben needs a turn at leading, and they hadn't really given him that opportunity. So the trick here is to get him to think that he's driving the vote out for Nick and
Yeah.
keeping Jeremy. And so you see Sarah talking to Ben, should we blindside Nick? And then we see Ben talking to Tony and asking Tony, should we blindside Nick? That's one of the highlights of the whole
And then
episode
Tony's
for
like,
me.
well, are you good with that? Not going to, are you okay with that? And
Nick's
he's like,
so frantic.
Well, yeah, I'm open to that if that's what you want.
Yeah.
I thought that was beautifully played.
Yep.
Actually, that was kind of perfection for.
It came across that way. I mean, it's a huge part of the edit is influence in our
True,
perception of
true.
it. But that was just to see Tony and Sarah both thinking the same thing and then planning together about how to get Ben to be okay with keeping Jeremy and then flipping the focus on to Nick and to see her make a suggestion. And then Ben thinks he's taking the plan to Tony.
Well, and here Ben tells Tony that, well, Denise will vote any way I want.
She's in lockstep.
Absolutely. And I'm sure because she told him she would.
And this is the hardest mission yet, Ben tells us. We got to flush that 50-50 and get rid of Nick. It's all about helping Ben think it's his idea. Man, that was good. Okay, we're on to the immunity challenge. They're gonna have
Number one.
They're gonna have to toss the ball up and let it roll down a track and then catch it before it hits the ground. There's obstacles that they've got to traverse while the ball is rolling through the track, and then they've got to dig under a bar, which wasn't much of a dig, really. And then
No, that was sand on top of the ground, really.
yeah, and then solve
That's
a
not
slide
a-
puzzle. And the winner's going to get 2 fire tokens in addition to having individual immunity.
That's very different from digging down into real sand. I mean, that was real sand, but brought in. So,
Jeremy starts off doing really well. Ben, not so much. He loses one of his balls there for a little bit.
couldn't even find it. It's like, where did it
Yeah,
go?
it bounced over into someone
Two
else's
over.
lane. Yeah.
So, but he eventually finds
He gets it. Denise gets hers, and Jeremy's actually the first to get both the balls through there. And then we get to see people doing jump kicks into that sand pile. That was a pretty clever. While they're running up, they just jump with both legs and push a big chunk of the sand out of the way.
Yep.
So Jeremy, Sarah, Tony, Nick, Ben, they're all working on the slide puzzle. Meanwhile, Michele has not.
Poor Michele.
Yeah, bless her heart, right? I think
Yeah, that was
this
awful.
is definitely a bless her heart moment
There's
there.
just some things, and then you
Couldn't-
get so tired you just can't.
Couldn't get through the first stage at all. She was getting frustrated.
Nothing left in the tank.
Probst reminds Tony how bad he lost this slide puzzle in Cagayan with Spencer coming from behind to beat him. Just what he needed.
Thanks, Jeff. And
Yeah.
distracts him, talks to him. I thought, don't talk to him.
Got
big
into
mouth.
his head.
I'd
Yep.
just said, shut up, Probst.
Well, contrary to Sarah and Tony's plans, Nick comes through with the win and ends up with individual immunity here, solving
I
that
was-
slide puzzle.
Actually cheering for him there.
Yeah, well, a lot of times we're compelled to cheer for the underdog.
No, it wasn't that. It was that I had him as one of my vote out picks, but I no longer did. So I didn't want him to go out.
Ah, gotcha.
So it was a little more self-serving. I don't care about him as an
Often the
underdog.
case when you play in JSFL.
Yes.
Michelle's crying now. She's so frustrated. She didn't even get one ball through the first part of the challenge. But Nick is happy. He got his first individual win and 2 fire tokens.
There's no crying in challenges. All right, Denise tells us Nick gets immunity. I wonder what plan B is.
Yep. And our thought was, well, we hope it's not
Yeah,
Denise.
Hope it's not you. But that's a possibility.
Okay, back at camp after that challenge there on day 31, everyone made like they were sneaking off to hide from Nick, but he turns around and busts them. He catches them, so they all get a good laugh out of that. Ben tells us it's time for a replan. Sarah's got a plan. It's Denise. Let's get rid of Denise. Ben's thinking, while he agrees on the first pass, while they're sitting
He
there talking
always
about
agrees.
it. Yeah, which is a good thing to do.
Yep.
That's a tactical deflection. Whether you agree or not, you don't want to call yourself out in the midst of a potential alliance member. He
But-
tells us she's a friend and a number.
Yep. So he would rather see Michele and Nick broken up. Nobody thinks of breaking up Sarah and Tony. They had a perfect opportunity.
This is
They
going to
got them
be.
dialed in pretty good, I guess. It just,
This is the big puzzle
Like,
as we're watching
really?
this. We kept asking over and over again, how come they're not? How come they're not? And maybe it goes back to that demonstration with how they were able to affect Ben's perception and get him to focus on Nick.
well,
But for some reason, nobody's seeing them as a threat, or that's just being left out of the edit because it wasn't part
Yeah.
of how things are going to play out.
well, you had Tony and Sarah going, but I didn't think Tony was going to lose the challenge because he's been on a streak. So I thought, oh, he'll probably
That
win
turned out
another
well,
one.
but-
And
but
I thought,
on
oh,
the
it's
whole, you're doing
open.
okay.
They might go for him now. But it's
This
like,
could be exciting.
we didn't even hear it brought up.
Right.
It's like, Nick, feel your power. Feel it. Feel your power. You have immunity. Go after Tony. I thought, does he think he can beat Tony? They're not seeing what we're seeing.
Obviously, they don't get it from the curated perspective that we do, where
Right.
it seems so overwhelming that Tony's way far ahead. And that's one of the trickiest things to think about is how do they believe they're being perceived versus how other
Yeah.
people are being perceived? Why do they think it's such an even playing field?
Because that's huge. That's what has me so puzzled. It's like, really? Even with Sarah. Sarah, honey, what? But she said, well, I want to go up against the best. So maybe that's her whole thing is she thinks she can beat him.
Ben wants to plant a seed in Jeremy's head. He wants to get him all confused, and he wants to sow some distrust between Jeremy and Michele, so he hatches a plan. Now, I think you're supposed
That
to
kinda
look at the
backfired.
plan that Sarah and Tony had for getting in Ben's head and controlling who he targets for how well Ben's plan to get in Jeremy and Michelle's head worked.
Yeah.
So compare and contrast here to see who might be the better players.
So Michele goes, yeah, Jeremy's going to ask, but I'm not going to give it to him. And then Jeremy tells Michele that Ben asked, and she
Ben
tells
told
him
me
what
to
Ben
ask
says.
you.
And,
Yes.
Yeah.
So, yeah, they bust Ben pretty hard.
Yep.
And Jeremy had already told Nick that he was a no on Ben's plan to get Denise.
Yeah. Why do you think
Denise
Jeremy?
is a smokescreen.
Why do you think Jeremy and Nick told Tony that they were going to vote for Ben instead of just doing it?
They wanted a number, and I think that's part of our answer is that they just don't see the Tony story certainly the way we see it. So they actively are being deceived by Tony
But
and
they
have no sense
probably-
that their own games don't match up.
Didn't they know Tony wouldn't really want to do that?
Evidently not. They've done such a good job of making them think that they're in with them. Sarah with Ben and Tony with Nick, that
Well,
they've
and
got people really confused. It's working.
to Tony's credit, he said okay.
Yes.
But then he goes to work making it not okay. He goes and tells Sarah. Maybe he had to go ask Sarah what to do.
Yep, they have a powwow.
And that's when they decide, oh, shoot, then we have to vote for Jeremy if he's coming after Ben.
Mm-hmm.
I thought, okay. And then we're like, well, it's Michele or Jeremy. I thought, okay, Jeremy's one of my vote-offs, even though I really didn't want to see him go. And,
Well, Nick tells us there are two plans from his perspective. It's either Jeremy or Ben, and the fate is in his hands. And he tells us to get to 39 is what he's focused on, not just on this vote or even the next one. He's trying to look at the end game and work backwards. How does he see himself getting there?
so they're using Denise's vote so that Sarah and Denise vote for Michele. And then the guys, Ben, Tony, and Nick, vote Jeremy.
Yeah. That's at least that part of the plan that we're privy to. Nick's telling us he's just got to figure out which way he's going to go to decide how it actually ends. Okay, time for our first tribal council there on night 31. It's a packed jury, and Probst starts it off with Michelle's struggles at the challenge, not to miss an opportunity to talk
Well,
about
she called him on it a little.
how poorly she performed.
Thanks, Jeff. Always great to have you point those flaws out, but they're used to it.
He seemed to be hitting them with a lot of the how does it feel questions at this tribal council. How does it feel, Ben, to have people always watching your moves here? And
Well, he
Ben-
really has no control with this group of people.
Ben says it's got him all split up and worn down.
Well, Jeff kind of said too, how do you keep it together? Which persona you use with each person?
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was
Where
kind
did
of
that come from,
I
right?
know.
Yeah.
I thought that was an odd question. Maybe we missed something. Because why would Probst say that just out of the blue? How do you keep it all together? It's like, okay, you're lying to everybody, Ben. So
Is
how do
there-
you keep that straight in your head? Who you told what lies to?
Or is there perception that he's acting in a schizophrenic manner in some way? I don't know where
I
that
thought
came
that
from.
was just kind of out of the blue. So there must have been some reason, but we didn't see it.
Sarah says it's all about deciding in the moment, and you have to be confident here, and there's personal elements that you got to factor in.
Yep. And when you need to move, you cannot hesitate, just like when you're on a call.
Nick agrees there's definitely a personal element to this, and he's always trying to balance being truthful versus having no qualms, the sort of game bot approach to things. What do I need to do to win?
People are more truthful this season.
Yeah. Okay.
I thought,
That's a Fraser Crane see it and be it kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or just a smoke
they're
screen
just
he's
more
putting
truthful. I'm sure the jury's sitting over there going, not so that I've noticed. No.
up. Yeah. All this talk from him where Probst's trying to elicit this difference between being a game bot or robot versus having heart in the game, like Jeremy was talking about.
And Jeremy tells us it is personal, but you got to find some kind of middle ground. Which,
Ben says there's respect, but you got to betray, and sometimes that puts you at a moral crossroads between how you doing the right thing and what do you need to do tactically.
yep, because we've all heard each other's stories. And what I heard was, and blah, blah, blah.
So this was an interesting segue too that they went off on, is how does playing this game affect you when you get back to the real world, where Michele talking
I
about
found that interesting.
her having trust in people giving her driving
Should-
directions.
Yeah, she didn't trust anybody for any reason
Yeah.
when she got back home.
And then Ben says that it even messed with his relationship with his wife.
yeah, he had trouble trusting her.
Yeah.
It's like, wait a minute, what? Why
Jeremy
you not
chimes in
trusting
and,
me?
and says that, well, I guess that's how turned around you get
Yeah.
with those constant
I
paranoia
thought
feelings.
firemen trusted each other. I mean, if they don't have you back, you can die. So
Like a lot of different service jobs, yeah.
that's known to be a thing. And for him to admit he had trouble
For
trusting,
3 months after he got back from
Yeah.
Cambodia.
that's incredible.
I like Nick's summary phrase there that it's a social strategic game. So yeah, they're not just pieces on the board.
But we're not.
It's a big
then
social
we're not
game,
game bots.
but there is strategy involved, and yeah, Tony says he's locked and loaded, so he's ready to make his move. And Jeremy says everybody's got their idea for how things are going to go down. And Sarah agrees that things are fluid often, but in this case, Michelle's got an advantage, so
Yep.
maybe things are clearer
Point
for
that
her.
out, a 50-50 advantage.
And Michele says that she's got to play it because it expires tonight.
Well, she said someone will
Oh, yeah,
play
someone
it.
will play it. She didn't say herself.
Someone will play it.
Denise tells us she doesn't want to walk the plank. It's interesting the way she's chosen to manage her game and how some of the things that she says, at least that we get to see, isn't it? I mean, because Denise's statements get even more complex in the next stage.
I'm surprised because she and Jeremy had that little exchange last time, and she brought it up that she was reminded that she was only safe that one time, and yet her role was to vote for Michele. You would have thought she'd said, "Well, I want to vote for Jeremy," because it didn't make as much sense that way. But at least she was in on the vote, I guess. But she
Endure and let go. She's working through it.
yeah. Nah.
Probe says, well, there doesn't seem to be as much chaos here. There's all calm. And Jeremy says, well, he's nervous. Unless I have a necklace, I'm always nervous, he says.
Yep. It's time to vote, and Ben hopes everybody sticks to the plan. Jeff comes back to read
I like
the
when,
vote.
did you catch that when Denise was voting? She said she was
What?
voting for Michele because Mama D needs a win
Oh,
tonight.
Yep, Mama did.
Okay, yeah,
Yes,
time
I
to tally
did.
the votes. Cut to commercial. We're back, and it's time to test Michelle's 50-50.
And she did the same thing.
Drawing it out.
Yeah.
She's gonna play it for herself.
Looking
Gonna play
at
it for Jeremy.
'em.
Jeremy's like, whoa, he's giving her the big eye face there. Are you gonna play it for me
he
and save me?
really wanted her to play it for him, but I had said before they even went in, if she plays it for him, she going home. So, but I know she's glad she didn't play it for him because she would have went home. So she does decide the right choice, plays it for herself. She is safe. 2 votes for Michele do not count. That was Denise and
4
Sarah.
fire tokens well spent.
Yes. Jeremy comes up with 3 votes from Tony, Ben, and Nick. Ben got 2 votes from Jeremy and Michele. Are you surprised Michele voted with Jeremy this time?
No, not given their conversation.
Okay, so they're still leaving her out.
Yeah, she's pretty upset about it.
Yeah.
Right now, Jeremy's out, and he wants to know who did it. Tony says, sorry, Jay. Jeremy says, bad move, dude. Bad move. And he gets his torch snuffed, and he's off to the edge of extinction.
But he gives his 2 tokens to Michele.
Yep, he does. Okay, back at camp there at Koru on night 31 after that tribal council.
Do you think that's really why she voted with him? She's pretty good at getting people to leave her them tokens.
She definitely is.
Yes.
Ben says that tribal was intense. It's like an old western between him and Jeremy, and they finally drew, and he ended up getting the kill.
Michele's next. She's a hyena and she needs to go. And then we'll
Well,
get
Tony
Nick.
first called her a goat. Yeah.
Well, usually they'd call her a goat and take her with, but since
That's
she's
not
a
his game.
hyena, she can't be a hyena and a
This-
goat.
This is a different game. So Tony's not about taking goats.
So, but they at least they were targeting Nick too.
Ben and Tony go get water, and Ben celebrates, and he thanks Tony. And Tony says, for what? He played that so well. They've got Ben so deep in their pocket at this point. It's just crazy.
It seems like it.
Yep. Michele tells Nick when he comes over to talk to her after that travel, I was wondering if you would have the courage, I'll go with courage,
Okay.
to come talk instead of the word she used. And she's questioning him, what's the path to the end now, Nick, that you did that you got rid of Jeremy? Nick didn't seem to have an answer. I'm assuming if he had an answer that he was willing to share with her, that we would have heard it there. So I don't, as he gets caught flat-footed again, basically.
Yeah, she really doesn't have anybody, though, so...
It's me, then you, Nick. That's what she's laying out for him.
Well, and that's the way they laid it out, too. So I think her read on that's pretty good, but I don't know about Nick.
Nick says
He just
Michele
keeps-
is not her plan to the end. Not his plan to the end, rather. And that he's telling us that Ben needs to go. Yeah, Michelle's... I think she's read it correctly. She's got the read on the room. She says we're on the bottom and there's no path for us.
There's no end for Nick and I. He's just too naive to see it. Nobody wants to take me any further than
She knows
here.
exactly where she is. She states, I have to win immunity to stay.
Yep.
It's time to buckle in and do everything I can.
Nobody's going to take her unless they need her. So, but I keep waiting for somebody to shake something up, and they're just... I thought, Nick, do you really think you can beat Tony?
I think Michelle's right.
get
He
it.
just didn't. We didn't see any indication that he's seeing that. Again, we get to see something that's so different from what they get.
Yeah.
And even if they saw what we saw, it's not even clear that with everything going on.
Well, Sarah
That it would
saw him as
stick.
a danger. So, okay.
Okay, we're at Koru, day 32. Michelle's telling us about how she's more mad here and there's no trust and she's frustrated, but she got nothing to lose, so she pitches Sarah. The writing is on the wall. You
Yep,
can't
why
beat
not?
Tony. Where was this story earlier, though? I mean, you could have been working this for a while.
Well, they have off and on a little, but
She
I don't
tells
know
Sarah
about Sarah.
perception is everything, and I think that annoyed Sarah
it did kind of. She's like,
because
there's some people you can't beat.
Michele tells her door is always open, but Sarah goes back to Tony and Ben and Nick and Denise and tells them everything Michele was saying.
Well,
She ends it with a sort of a backhanded compliment by saying, at least she's trying. But she can't keep her mouth shut, and Michele needs to go. That's why I knew that she got under Sarah's skin a little bit and aggravated her.
She's unpredictable.
For her to
needs to go.
say that, yeah.
Yeah, that she can't keep her mouth shut.
and she needs to go.
But it's because she pushed that the jury
The perception
says
is
Tony
you
is
don't
running things.
Measure up, Sarah.
Sarah sees herself as running things, but I
Or
think Michelle's
in lockstep.
right.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I don't think they see Sarah doing it. We've not seen it. Now, if she is, they're not. The edit isn't showing us that.
Mm-hmm.
So, as far as what we've seen, Michele is correct in her assumption.
Okay, day 32 continues. We're going to bounce out to Edge of Extinction. It's one scoop of rice, a tiny scoop. There's low morale and wandering minds.
And Jeremy's brain was busy all night long. I bet that happens to every single person.
Very hard, yeah.
It would me, I know.
And imagine how old that is for Natalie, for someone to show up and then they can't stop talking at this point, as many times as she's been through it.
And they're like, "Oh, this is all the rice we get." That was like a little teaspoonful or something. That was terrible. That's not good.
So Yule comes back with a clue and talks about what did the clue cover? Oh, there's drive and there's drawing and there's
Sitting
an
proudly on a throne of stone.
image of a throne of stone. And so we get to visit with a few of them, Danny and then Wendell. Danny's got a clue and
Rob's running out. He's got the same clue as Danny.
or thinks she's onto it. And then Wendell, he knows.
So he's going to outrun Natalie.
Yeah, he takes off because he tells us he's the fastest sprinter. And Natalie says, yeah, all mine. Yoink.
Well, once she saw he didn't, she thought he was heading to where she was.
Yeah.
But then when she got over
took
there
a-
and he wasn't there, it's like, oh,
Took a left and
this
missed
is
it.
mine now. He didn't have the clue right.
He tells us Natalie tells us that it's the benefit of being there so long and being
Yep.
so familiar with her surroundings that she knew exactly what it was referring to.
Yeah, well, should be some benefit for Natalie being there for that long.
That's what she says, yeah. Okay, she decides to go ahead and read it out for everyone. It's a disadvantage in the challenge that you can have applied to someone and they won't know who put it on them.
Yep. And who can afford to buy? They thought Denise.
No limit on the cost. Initially, so yeah, the idea was to sell it to Denise because they're thinking about how many fire tokens she had.
Wonder who she would have used it on. Would she have used it on Tony? Or I wonder. Oh, well.
In any case, they're looking at how they might get someone to pool their tokens.
Yeah.
So
And that's all Natalie. That's bottom line. I don't care about none of the others.
She's
I
doing
just
damage.
give me the tokens.
this is a two-step process.
Send my tokens
I got
to
one
me.
punch with the cost and the second punch with the disadvantage.
Were you surprised that she hit him up for 8 tokens?
What a accurate read.
Ooh. Yeah.
With immunity that got him 2 more fire tokens. So basically, I guess Jeremy had him dialed in on exactly how many he had.
Yeah, maybe
so they
he
could
did
ask,
know exactly.
or maybe not. Maybe they just
More than we
decided to go
knew,
to
for
ask,
sure.
knowing that the last time they asked for 6, they upped it to 8.
Yeah.
Which is what we find out when Nick shares that he got something in his personal bag and he's only got 6 tokens, but the cost of this advantage is 8. He's got to the end of the day to sunset there. He tells us that he landed on Boardwalk, doesn't have enough. First he thought, well, I could go to Tony, but Tony, he was saying, didn't have any for him. So Michele, he goes to Michele and she's on board right away.
And I don't think Tony would have wanted him to do that to Ben.
Possibly not. Getting a little ahead there. Yep, Michelle's got fire tokens and she's willing to chip in to pay the 8. She's excited about the possibility of causing a little chaos there for the final 5 days and not making it quiet, but they've got to figure out how. Okay, skip to day 34, so nothing on 33.
33, completely nothing.
Right over to 34. So this didn't play out time-wise like we thought at all.
Nope.
Not even remotely close.
We can't even guess that right.
We're at the immunity challenge, and they're going to have to stack blocks on a beam while avoiding trip obstacles and then tip them over like dominoes and make it to the end. So it's a classic challenge we've seen, and whoever wins gets 2 fire tokens. And Jeff tells us the last day to earn them and the last day to spend them. And then we find out that Nick has decided to give Ben the disadvantage where he's got 30% more beam and blocks to have to deal with. What'd you think about that? 30%
Same old as far as why wouldn't you give it to Tony? I keep wanting to free Tony up so you can go after.
Well, that was the big question. Who were Michele and Nick going to pick if they wanted to sow these seeds of chaos and to disrupt things? Did making it Ben, did that make the most sense?
I don't know.
I would have picked Sarah.
Yeah, but you would have gone after Sarah too, and they wanted to go after Ben. So if you couldn't get Tony, you'd want to go after Sarah to weaken Tony. But Ben should weaken Tony too.
In terms of the disadvantage or to aggravate someone and to get their mind running, I was thinking Sarah, but they obviously settled on Ben, thinking that it would do more damage.
Nobody gets more aggravated about things than Ben does. But it also makes him extra determined.
Yep.
So, 30% more blocks. Didn't seem to hold him back any.
No, it didn't seem like that big of a disadvantage.
Though he probably would have won, hands down, if he hadn't had that. So
seemed like it, and certainly according to some statements that he ends up making. Okay, Probst tells us that the obstacles are easy earlier, and then it gets more and more difficult. You can see Tony doing a funny walk as he's picking his feet up and putting them down and holding his shorts there so that he doesn't trip himself up.
Or the shorts don't hit the thing and knock something off.
Yeah, cause it to wobble. We see Ben knock over some blocks.
And Sarah was being very obvious, cheering Tony on versus Michele. Mm-hmm. Michele, she and Tony and Michele were neck and neck. She was like, come on, T. So Michele knew they were trying to not let her win.
Yep.
They were ganging up on her.
Michele ends up dropping a block and then recovers.
Yep.
And she gets herself into position and ends up winning. on day
I
34
was
when she
actually
needed it the
happy
most.
about that.
She did the sassy
I was
hippie
like,
hippie dance
"Woohoo,
there.
all
Yeah.
right, you
Yeah.
show 'em, girl." And then Ben was just right there. That had to be so
Right on her
frustrating.
heels. Yep.
But at least she wins immunity. Good for her.
Yeah, she even points out to Probst when he's asking her what the significance of the win was. Well, you saw it didn't get any claps, right?
Oh, and then he mentions it, so they all clap.
Yeah. Then
It's
Nick
like,
says, "Sorry, Michele," and then they clap.
Yeah, it's kind of like, too
Yeah.
little, too late, y'all.
Whatever. I got the individual immunity, so
Yeah.
you're gonna have to work out a new plan.
That's what they were thinking. They were all in shock. Well, who are we? What are we going to do now? Plan B again.
Yeah, it did work on Ben to some degree because he was asking Jeff on his way out, "Hey, can you tell me who sent that disadvantage?"
Who sent me
Nope.
that? He said, "Well, I had to ask that. Oh, that's gonna bug him till he finds
Yeah.
out. You know, he's gonna ask and ask till he gets an answer from somebody. Somebody will tell him after the game's over. So he's not gonna be
I liked
happy about it.
Michele. Nah. You can't get me. She was thrilled. Yeah,
Yep.
we really enjoyed that moment for her.
I don't blame her for that at all.
Okay, we're back at camp there on day 34. Get some congratulations this time for Michele.
Yep. Denise tells us, well, she pulled out a win on to plan B. So I thought that was kind of weird at first that she was playing the dejected survivor player and you
Just
know,
want to buy a bag of rice so
I just
I can
wanna
go
have
to
some
Edge of
food
Extinction
before I
with a
go.
full belly. Yeah,
I'll buy
okay.
you a bag of rice tonight.
So they had fire tokens to burn, so I guess why not?
Why didn't you just go buy the rice anyway and eat all you wanted out of your bag of rice?
Well, it wasn't what it was about. So
I know.
it was indeed a smokescreen.
I
She
did
tells us.
I did understand that, but
We see Tony, Sarah, Ben, and Denise talking, and they're trying to decide on who it is, and they agree it's Nick.
I still don't ever think it's a good idea to draw that much attention to yourself because it might just turn out that way.
Could backfire that you make yourself
That's
too
right.
good of an option. Yeah.
They're like, oh, yeah, hey, we could do
It's
that.
certainly a risky play.
I
and
thought so.
She's been in that space of late, so
So Denise, Ben, Sarah, and Tony say, well, let's vote for Nick. We want to get him next anyway, so as you said.
Ben goes to talk to Nick and Michele, and he's interested in Denise.
And he calls Denise is so lovable. But she did vote out Sandra.
Ben,
So she
yeah.
has the resume.
Ben's feeling good. He says there's no need to play his idol tonight.
Yeah, I was afraid that would. I had him going, so I thought I actually thought he would go first because I thought they'd try to get that idol out and that they would need that extra time for it to be a real blindside. But here I thought, yeah, well, it wouldn't be a blindside here. He might play it, but he didn't.
Nick's feeling pretty good. He tells us that his plan worked, and Michele, because he bought that disadvantage, she ends up being able to win, and it did seem to be a factor. Like you said, Ben probably would have pulled out that win.
Yep.
And Nick reminds him that Ben made fire to win. He's dangerous.
And Michele can't make fire.
Right.
So it seems like Tony at least thinks about that for a little bit.
Yeah, that did give him pause, didn't it?
Yeah.
And then he's
Very little.
off to his spy nest where he gets to bust Denise as she's talking to Sarah and Ben at the well. And Denise is making a pitch for final 3 between them. Tony's got the jury in the palm of his hands, and he's got these challenge wins. So you know they're seeing some of it for sure.
Well, but here's the thing. Tony got all wound up.
That's enough for him. Denise
and
has to go.
Denise has to go. She just absolutely has to
She
go.
targeted me.
Sarah, we have to go
Yeah.
get Denise out. But that's not who they targeted. They worked with Denise. So is Sarah the one controlling Tony? I think that's going to be Sarah's argument. Hey, I had to control Tony the whole season and keep him dialed in and focused.
Tony's response will just be, nobody controls me. You guys know I'm a force.
Yeah, well, we see here, though, that they didn't vote out Denise.
Michele talks about Denise being served up on a platter. And they're not believing that smoke screen at all.
Yeah. And Sarah plays up that it comes from the bottom, and he's got as strong a story as Denise does, so.
Yep, he's got a good underdog story.
Because I think she'd rather keep Denise, too.
Tony and Sarah reaffirm their partnership once again, and they're playing, and they're off to tribal council there on night
Number
34.
2. And Jeff at least gets to tell that Michele won this immunity challenge.
She got that necklace on, so
Which
something changed in her favor.
Very, very nice after what he did the last time. So.
Yep,
But
she said there's no secret that I'm on the bottom. Nobody would
right.
talk strategy with me today.
That's right, and she really needed it, so she pulled it out. That earned points with the jury for sure.
Sarah says it's dangerous to feel safe. Sometimes you let up on the pedal and then you can miss things. And Ben is wondering
Still wants to know,
who put that disadvantage on me.
was it somebody over there, or was it somebody from here?
There was something we weren't really thinking about.
Yeah,
The fact that
somebody over there might have done it to me,
yeah,
or did somebody over
that it's
there?
not clear that it's actually
Yeah,
the
he
people
doesn't
that
know.
you're playing with. Yeah.
It's not just, he doesn't
No
just
reason
look at
for
them.
him to know. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And now that they know that, they've really got a lot more leeway to push. Oh, somebody from the other side's got it out for you.
Mm-hmm. Nick says right now it's about figuring out who to take with you and versus who to take out.
And there's just a whole lot of unpredictability. That's true, Nick.
It's time to talk about fire tokens again and make Jeff happy. So Sarah gets a question. Yes, they've had an impact on the game. You got to manage not only yours but all the other coins too. And Michele talks about how emotional it was and how getting fire tokens really helped her turn around her game and helped her keep going. And as far as she was concerned, they were priceless.
Yeah, and even for her morale that people kept giving her. That would be a boost.
And Ben got a good funny line in when got the question about the returnee from Edge of Extinction. He said there's a lion that's been let out of the cage and you got to figure out who to pin a stake to. Who are you going to get that lion to go eat when it comes back from Edge of Extinction?
I imagine that's on all of their minds quite a lot.
Yes.
And especially after what happened last time, and he came back and won after being out with the jury for a long time. So if it's one of the people that's been out there a long time, I think they have a better chance with the jury than somebody who came out in the last week or so.
Yep.
But you never know.
Tony tells us that you're going to get the true test of the bonds and the trust that's been placed tonight based on how this vote goes.
I think Denise has hurt herself. You know, I don't know if that came over that well with the moves I had were limited, and if it's going to be me, I wanted to. So if she gets to the final 3.
Did you see what Adam said to Kim, though, in response to that?
That it was a strategy.
It was a fake out, right?
Yeah, fake out.
Yeah, so they're not reading it
Well,
like
and it
she's
was,
given up.
But
Yeah, it absolutely was.
But I wanted to know if she had thought about how she was going to play that off. I'm sure she has.
Yeah, I believe so. She doesn't have a lot of agency. She doesn't have the kind of alliance that Sarah and Tony have.
No.
And she doesn't seem to have anyone that she can work with solidly. So she's manifesting her game in different ways. At least she's saying, look, this is a control plane I can influence. I can play this fake card, and then that becomes part of my story too. The deception that we put in place. So.
And Nick tells us there's been some hard tribal councils these last few weeks. I don't think quite as hard as this one's, though, Nick. And then Denise took that opportunity to talk about her endure and let go.
Yep.
And she doesn't want to be the choice, but she'll accept whatever happens. And I just wasn't sure about saying, well, I wasn't going to scramble. Mm-hmm. But
there's risk.
Well, that was
absolutely,
her scramble, I guess.
In answer to your question, there's risk with that kind of play. The wounded bird trying to lure them away from the nest. Mm-hmm. That there's also some reward for her if she gets to incorporate it as part of her bigger story.
And Nick says, you got to go with what the game hands you. And today it handed me to Denise. Like, oh, I remember saying, I hope you have to eat those words.
Okay, time to vote. Nobody plays any idols. We get votes for Denise and Nick, and Denise and Nick, and Nick is voted out.
And Nick says when he votes for Denise, I get to slay the Queen Slayer.
Not so much, Nick.
I like it that he was really blindsided. He didn't see it coming.
After he got voted out, he tells them, well, I'll do my best to join you tomorrow.
Yep.
Nick gets a quick confessional after being voted out there, and he says he's proud of the 34 he did, and he's going to do his best to come back.
Well, of course he is, just like all the rest of them are.
So this was an interesting twist. The last 15 minutes or so were a little bit of a setup for the return from Edge of Extinction. And,
Yep, and going into
and then
the
a look
finale.
back, for
Yeah.
the finale. So
Well, now they don't have to do that.
it seemed like it took the wind out of it a little bit. I don't know. It seemed like it lost energy to me a little bit right here. And you get to hear Amber talking about how this really was a mom on vacation moment. She needed the simplicity of this time because she's usually running herself ragged, it sounds like.
I just thought that was it was nice, but I thought it was an odd transition into the talking about the tokens and all that.
Yeah.
Though I guess it shifted into watching the last sunset. So I guess that was their way of saying goodbye.
Sunrise, yeah. They climbed up
Or
on top of the
sunrise,
island
yeah.
to see the sunrise. Yep, Boston Rob tells us that it's time for battle, and he's still got his hidden immunity idol from the first challenge that he
Yep.
purchased. And the menu is different now in
Yes,
terms
it
of
was.
the cost. So to get one advantage in the challenge is now 2 fire tokens. To get 2 would cost you 4, and to get 3 will cost you 6. So previously they were 1 fire token apiece, but now they're
And the
Each
idol,
one-
to get an idol, is 6.
6. So everything doubled, in terms of the cost here.
But we know that Wendell bought 1 advantage, Yule bought an advantage, Parvati bought 1 advantage with her 2 tokens, so she's been eating.
She's been spending them.
She's been spending them.
Yeah.
If she only had 2,
Yeah.
then she's been spending them on food.
Now, what did you think about Natalie,
14.
the fire token billionaire of Edge of
Well,
Extinction?
she got 6 more tonight, so that put her up to the 14. Oh, yeah, 8 more tonight.
From Nick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so good on her. She's been eating too, though.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, she spent at least a couple bucks on peanut butter or a couple tokens. And but
She tells us that, you can see her with her jar of peanut butter, but she's bought 3 advantages, and she went ahead and bought an idol for Tyson. That was interesting, wasn't it?
That was interesting. I was surprised, but I didn't know they were close.
It fits with this disadvantage play and how can you do the most damage. And she's like, well, it's either going to be me or it's going to be Tyson that's going to do the most damage when we get back in. That's how she's thinking about it. So it seemed to really touch Tyson that she would do that. He said no one really does things for him. So to experience that level of generosity choked him up a little bit.
Yeah, that was pretty awesome because he must have been eating too because he had 2 tokens from that coconut challenge and it showed him with no
0.
tokens. So
Yeah.
he must have bought at least 2 jars of peanut butter or
Yeah.
a jar of peanut butter and a pizza or something out there.
Again, I'll take one more opportunity to say you really dropped the ball, Survivor Entertainment Group, on keeping us up to tabs
That's
with what was
right.
going on with your fire token economy. If you're
They
going to
didn't
do
want us
this,
to know they were eating.
if you're going to do this, then you should have at least kept us clear on how things were playing out.
Yep, that was kind of dropping the ball.
In any case, they covered it here, so I guess we're caught up in terms of who's going to have what and how it's going to get spent.
Well, and from what we could tell, the first advantage gives them the ability to skip part of the fence obstacle
Where
in
they
the
gotta
first section.
Wrap themselves through the fence on the rope. Yeah.
Yeah, it looks like they just take out a section.
It's one of those
or something.
classic things where they're clipped onto a rope and the rope is wrapped around an obstacle, so they've got to climb over the obstacle to
And in
proceed.
the second section, they get to
Second
skip.
advantage.
They get to skip the dig part.
Okay, so there's a dig portion in the challenge
And
that
if
they're going to
you
get to skip.
have the third advantage, as Natalie is the only one that has that, you're a third of your rope bridge is already built for you. So you only have to build 2/3 of it instead of the whole thing.
Okay.
So that's what the advantages are.
So everybody who has the first advantage will probably start at the same place, and then after they get through that portion
They don't
and
have any
they go
more
to the
advantage.
dig, Natalie's going to breeze through the dig, and then a third of her rope bridge is going to be done. So she'll have a big head start.
Well, it certainly sounds like it's hers to lose, for sure, but
It's not clear what the ending... No, wait a minute. It did say what the end was. Can you go back to the notes there? Remember what...
I didn't write what the end was.
I think it was a 2-ball maze. They have to navigate 2 balls through a maze.
Oh, yeah.
It's probably the tilt
yeah.
maze kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, I do remember it saying something about the maze.
Yeah, so that can be an equalizer depending on how you do and how many
Definitely.
drops that
Yeah,
you have and things like that. But that's probably something that she'll be able to do.
Yeah, if it's the one we think it is. So, but she's done good in the mazes before too.
That would be just poetic justice for her, the person who went out first to come back last.
That
wouldn't
would
it?
be bizarre.
It would be
yes.
it would be the bookend that
Come
you
back
would
right at the final
want
five.
for that. And she's going to be safe if that's indeed the case.
For at least one vote.
She'll be able to play that immunity idol.
Yeah, but there's still the final 5.
Yes.
That there'll be a vote.
Yep. And then the fire making challenge. Yep.
She won't go out in 6th.
Yes. She won't immediately be voted right back out.
So anyway, those are our assumptions.
Mm-hmm.
But
Most likely.
yeah,
Everyone can make mistakes and think they don't
True.
need to play it. Yeah.
true. Because some of those people
gotta-
may just be faster.
A quick little recap of the season there, which to me felt like a complete waste of time. But I guess if
Well, that's kind of setting up the finale, I think.
you do that with a commercial, I don't know why you need that
Yeah.
in the episode. Then next time on Survivor, is there anything else you want to say?
No.
Next time on Survivor, Ben tells us for him it's about the alliances. So he believes he was able to have a social game and have alliances. Perception seems to, from our viewer viewpoint, that he got brought along in alliances. It wasn't so much him creating them and then manifesting their
Who's that?
goal. Ben.
Oh,
Yes, he had a better social game, but he doesn't really get the credit for the alliances, I don't think. And his duplicitous behavior caused him to be viewed negatively for much of the season.
and then we've got Tony saying, Sarah, please think about it.
He's looking forward to being the king of Survivor and getting crowned.
He's like, dang it, Tony.
Sarah says there's a battle coming, but she's not scared. Michelle's still about proving that she deserves to be there.
She's trying to shake up this game.
And I think Denise is the only one who's got a story close to Tony's.
Really? I
With
don't
her
know.
alliances, her immunity wins, and she took down the queen.
Well, Sarah says, let's see the best of the best. Go at it.
She's just talking about the EOE battle, though, I think. That wasn't...
Maybe
Yeah.
not. Maybe she thinks she wants to go.
So who do
She
you
said that.
think's coming back from Edge of Extinction?
I just said that. Natalie.
Yeah? If you had to pick 2 others, who do you think that would be?
I would say Parvati or probably Wendell.
Tyson. I
Oh,
would
yeah, I
say
forgot about
Parvati and
Tyson. Yeah.
And then I would say Wendell and Yule. You never want to count
yeah,
Yule
yeah,
out.
yeah. Yeah, I forgot about Tyson. But yeah. Yeah. That's it. That's pretty good. Natalie, Parv, Tyson,
And then
and then Wendell and you.
you got some other dark horses there with Boston Rob and Sophie.
Don't think so. Sophie maybe. Sophie's done good in that stuff. So
Yeah, Rob's good at a lot of that stuff too.
he is, but I think he really did injure his elbow.
Yeah,
I don't know if he's gonna
possibly. No, he's the other one besides Natalie and
And I
Tyson
don't-
that have an idol
I don't
protect them if they come back
be
in.
know that they've been sharing the food necessarily or not. And if they haven't, then I know that we saw Natalie share a little bit of the peanut butter with Tyson. But one minute that jar was full, and the next minute it was almost empty. so I don't know if she ate it or or if they have secretly, the ones that have been out there longer still been sharing with those who don't have. So
I think the one that comes back is really the one that has an opportunity to take down Tony and Sarah. If you can bring Michele and Ben and Denise around, then you've got a chance at that.
Tyson might have a chance, though I don't know. Ben has,
because they're going to come back with, true
stuck
or
it to
not,
him
they're going to
before.
come. They have the ability to come back and say, "I'm telling you exactly what the jury thinks." And it's not you, Ben, and
Yeah.
it's not you, Michele, and it's not you, Denise. So
And it's not me. It's Tony. He's
Wait.
got to push. It's not me.
yeah, wake up. So that'll be interesting
or
to
Tony's
see,
got
because
this game
Ton-
hands down.
Tony seems to be the winner at this point. Yeah, having made it through here through day 35 or day 34, and they're going to have the Edge of Extinction Return Challenge. That'll be the first part of the finale, don't you think?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
They'll start with that.
I could have swore they said day 36 back at the merge when they had that
I
first
guess
challenge.
we were wrong.
Yeah, we'll go look. Somebody was wrong. In
Yep.
any case, it's happening on 35 the way that was all put together.
Yep, for sure. And certainly anybody who wins their way back in should push the whole, yeah, I know what the jury's thinking and saying, and
gonna
this
be-
is what they're saying.
They have the most potential to do damage. We'll see if they get any they're able to gain any ground there.
Well, I tell you what, Michele and Denise know they're on the bottom.
Yep.
Why wouldn't they go with whoever comes back if they want to work with them?
Especially if it's Natalie or Tyson, and they say, "Look, I got an idol. I'm not going anywhere this next one." And it's going to be one of you three, the way things are put together.
I can vote with them, or you can do
You
something
can take
with
your
me.
chances, yeah.
Yeah.
Or we can change things up, and then you and I can settle in the next cycle.
Yeah.
So,
So
yeah.
anyway, hopefully it will be somebody that has an idol. Which,
Yep. You ready to do your order?
No, of course I'm not. I'm usually not even ready when it's time to do it. But if I were to choose the order right now with the 5, I would go Michele out in 5th, Denise 4th.
6, you mean?
No, I said
Oh, you're
doing the
ignoring.
5.
You're ignoring Edge of Extinction Return.
I just said that.
Okay.
With the 5, this is how I would do it, because I don't know who's coming back. I can't do 6. So I would be Michele, Denise, then Ben, Tony, and Sarah would go to the end.
Who wins?
Tony.
Yeah. Not even close, right?
Well, not in my mind.
Yeah. I don't think in the jury's mind either, given some of those comments that they've shared
Sarah
with us.
comes in maybe 2nd, Ben 3rd. But
I think Ben and Sarah tie with no votes in that scenario.
possibly.
Tony and Sarah seem like they're committed to each other at this point, that they're fine being together. Tony seems genuine when he says that.
Nah,
You don't think they're going to stick together?
I do, but I
okay.
don't understand it.
For Sarah, you mean?
Really, for either. Why would he want to?
He's not threatened by anyone because he believes that he's played
Well, yeah.
a superior game. And he knows what his story is.
Yep.
So why does he have anything to worry about? Whoever's sitting beside him.
Yeah.
And so he's good with taking her.
But what
and-
I'm saying is, I think Sarah feels the same thing. So she must have a lot to say that could throw a wrench in everything, and we're just not privy to it.
Yeah, and a lot of times the social game is invisible, so there could be some elements there.
Absolutely. Because a lot of people think of Tony as, yeah, but he's nuts.
But his
he's
story is
frenetic and is
great about how his wife coached him and he followed
Absolutely.
her plan until
until he didn't.
until he decided he didn't need to. Yeah.
Yeah, he could let go and play his game. And so, but anyway, what was your final 5 with these 5?
Yeah, I think I'll go ahead and say that the way things are stacking up right now, that I'm I'm unsure that Michele, Ben, and Denise will take advantage of the opportunity from the returnee from the Edge. And in that case, Michele does go 6, and then the Edge person goes 5th. And then you got somebody having to make fire against Ben.
Well, it would
And
be Denise.
It's Denise, and she
Probably
doesn't
so.
win. And so, yeah,
I
then
don't know. She can make fire.
She's not going to beat Ben. And then,
Might.
yeah, no. And then Ben and
She
Sarah
won't
get no
beat.
votes, and Tony is unanimous winner and becomes King of Survivor.
Yeah, I don't.
Just like you said.
I don't think she would get votes over Tony for sure. Denise.
Oh, I didn't say Denise was there. I said that she lost in the fire making to Ben.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
But I think she could. If Sarah, so contrary to what you're saying, if Denise is sitting with Tony, she gets some votes because she's got a story.
I think Sarah will too.
And Denise will not have had the benefit of an alliance like Sarah and Tony had.
I do think Sarah would get votes, and I think she would get more than Ben.
Okay, so we differ on that. You asked
Yeah.
me what my thoughts were.
Yeah, I know. I'm just clarifying, just so you know and it's clear what I said, because you
'Cause every
tend to
question
want
is
to
a question for Joanne.
remember things differently.
All right. How about a JSFL update?
I can do that. We have 4 people tied in first with 62 points. 127 people lost a safe point on Jeremy. And
Me.
what?
Me.
And 244 on Nick.
Also me.
Yeah. 2-point week for you. 211 people, congratulations, gained a vote out point for Jeremy, and 72 people for Nick.
Good job.
Yes, excellent. I got one of the two. So 46 people lost their USB for Jeremy, and 9 lost their USB for Nick. Side challengers with 62 points still in first, Jay Kindred. 59, Jeremiah. 52, Carl, Parker, and Stacy. With 51, we have Drew, Rebecca, and Slappy. With 50, Brandon, Cold Mike, Justin, and Jonathan. 49, we have Jack. 48, Cameron. And 47, Chris.
Wow. Cameron is really racing down there to join Chris to make it interesting here at the end, huh?
Don't be mean to Cameron.
Oh, goodness.
You were stressing over points tonight, too.
I wasn't stressing over it. I just knew that.
That's true. You were just telling me that it wasn't important if I lost a safe point because I wasn't in the side challenge.
I didn't say that.
That was not as important as whether you lost one.
I
That's
said the
what you
stakes
said.
were higher for me. I didn't say that it wasn't important that you lost
You
points.
did.
No, I didn't. I said the stakes.
Did
I said
too,
it's
did
not the
too,
same.
Did too.
All right. Well, we probably don't need to go round and round on that.
Nope.
Well, we're excited about the finale and looking forward to that for sure. And we're looking forward to hearing what you thought about the penultimate episode before the finale and what your finale picks are. The voicemail line is 206-350-1547. There's a toll-free option, 844-643-8737. The email is joanneandstacyshow@gmail.com. You can always find all that at GetSFP, GETSFP. And we look forward to hearing from you, whether you write it up or record it or call in. Keep it in that 3-minute mark. It's due noon Pacific time on Saturday. We're looking forward to having a big show before the finale. Lots of ideas and predictions. You got your finger up? What?
And we'll let everybody know exactly how the scoring. You could go ahead and enter your final 5, but we're not sure how or if we're going to be able to do the final 6 since we don't know who the 6th person's going to be.
Yeah, unfortunately, the
And,
site's not set up to handle these kinds of things, so we just make do with that. So
I've got to talk to Steve, and we'll see if we can come up with something, but we'll see.
Yep. We'll recap all that on the listener feedback show on
Yes.
Saturday. Looking forward to hearing from you. Have a good one.